Hey everybody, this is the Trout, also known as Rick Troutman here on the Trout Show. And if you stop by, you probably want to know how to become a better interviewing and what you're doing right now. You're probably a podcaster, maybe a YouTube person, but you want to become really good at interviewing. Well, first thing I want to tell you that becoming a great interviewer, a person that knows what they're doing, is an art form, and you got to learn how to do it, and you have to be comfortable at it. But this short video, I'm going to tell you a few things that have helped me along the way in my life to become better at interviewing. A little bit about me. I started this channel you're watching a few years ago, and I've interviewed hundreds of musicians and people involved with the music industry. Some of them are quite famous, and I have to make the interview interesting and stimulating enough that they'll tell me what is going to be going on in their lives and make it interesting for you, the viewer or the listener on my podcast, to sit there and listen to the interview. Before that, I was in corporate America. I came up through the ranks of two big multi-billion-dollar organizations. One of them was in office products, the other was selling legal information. In both cases, I started out as a sales rep and worked my way up to management. After that, I became president of two companies. One was a nationally recognized nonprofit. And I've interviewed a lot of people for people that want to work for me and also people that wanted to buy the products I was selling. So let's get right to it right now. The number one thing that I always think is important to do, the best interview you can do is do your research. Now, that may sound silly. What does that mean? Well, I'll give you an instance. When I used to interview a lot of college students that came in to interview for the job that we had open, we had multiple jobs open. It was always surprising to me how little they knew about the company they were applying for. They knew the name because it was nationally recognized, but after that, they didn't really know much about it. And I'd say, well, tell me about what we do. And they wouldn't, I don't really know what you do. That's not the approach you want to have when you're interviewing somebody. So if you're doing a podcast or you're interviewing somebody in whatever you do, it's important to do your research before you even start speaking to them. And with the internet, it's easy to find information about them. And the more information you have, and when you go to interview them, whether you do it on Zoom or you do it in person, it makes the interview go better. It also shows that you care about the person you're interviewing. And if you're working for, if you're interviewing a big company, you recognize the name, you don't want to just talk about that. You want to find interesting tidbits about that person that works within the company. There's a lot of places you can do that, but I always do deep dives on even famous musicians I interview, trying to find something unique to talk to them about. And remember, interviewing is a conversation. It's not a bunch of ask questions and they get answers back. It becomes a conversation after a while. The person on the other side of that interview that you're interviewing should be comfortable with you well enough to be able to talk to you about anything. And by the time they're finished, whether it's 10 minutes or an hour, you've got all the information you need to put together a great podcast or a YouTube or whatever you're doing. So I do research. And here's kind of what I did to make it even better. So I started out when I was traveling. I traveled the Midwest a lot when I was selling legal research, and I did a lot of traveling to small communities where the county seat was. Now, the county seat is where all the judges are, that's where all the attorneys are. And before I got there, or when I got there in a smaller community, I would look up information about the town, what's going on, whether it's in a local newspaper or online. And then when I spoke to either an attorney or a judge, I could ask them about, hey, I see the county fair is coming. Tell me a little bit about it. And that would pique their interest to talk to me. You want to break down the barriers. That's what research does. They know you're there to sell something. So if you can break that barrier real quick, that makes it easier for you to do the interview. You don't want to make mundane questions about things. Oh, and questions, that's another thing. Okay, do your research and ask open-ended questions. We were taught that a lot in sales. Yes or no questions never get you anywhere. You know, when you talk to a child, 3-year-old, and ask them how they feel, do you feel okay? Yes. Is mommy good? Yes. Those are the kind of questions you never want to ask when you're doing an interview. You want to open-ended questions. So when I look up somebody, I want to make sure I have a little bit of information on them that's kind of unique, and that sometimes takes a while to find. But if you do that and you do your research and you talk with them and you find something unique, and I can find stuff on the internet easily now, and if you can't, go to some AI and ask them, hey, can you find me information about this individual or about the company they're working for. Now you're probably thinking, okay, how do I do that individually? Well, if it's somebody you want on your podcast or you interview for YouTube, it's easy to find that information by going to the internet. I mean, some of them, social media, people use a lot of social media, even people with inside a company or inside a business. People have always put things up, whether they put it on their Facebook or they go to LinkedIn. That will help you find the information you need because, as they say, information is power. And the more information you know about the person you're interviewing, the better off and the better you will be as an interviewee, so to speak. I'm going to cut it here because I don't want to give you more information. I'm going to probably boost more of these to help salespeople become better interviewers and how to sell their product. But for now, take that one tidbit, do your research, become familiar with the person or the company you're interviewing before you even turn on that camera. And I will guarantee you, it will become better for you and the person that you're interviewing because that will break the ice to make you a better interviewer. My name is Rick Troutman. This has been The Trout Show. Thanks so much for stopping by and watching this. Have a great day.